prepare for a golf tournament?
Well, I hit balls maybe 20 minutes, putt a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink 3 Diet Cokes, and go to the first tee. Some days I won't even go to the range.
That's right, John Daly. We welcome you in. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop, Wednesday, January 26. Puck Sports, the PS show, every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. live on YouTube, on X, on the Puck Sports mobile app, iOS, Android, download it to your favorite smartphone. If you watch it later, everything always up on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button. We need more subscribers. Also on the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, please leave a rating. 5 is standard, so leave a 5. And then write a long, glorious review for the Daily Puck Drop, which comes your way via pucksports.com. And on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, for now, we are joined by the great go-to guy, Jim Moore, who comes via the great Brian Turner, a clean streak. Hello, Jim.
You ready to dump me, Puck?
I'm not ready to dump you. I'm waiting for you to dump me.
No,
Get your read over so we can find out where you're at today.
No, I sit there sometimes and think, God, Puck's going to get sick of all my shenanigans and just say, you know what, Jim, we had a good run, but that we're good.
I love you to death. It's the other way around. You're retired. You don't want to do this anymore. I get it.
No, I do. For, a while longer anyway. I don't know.
Give me the read for clean streak.
Okay. Nice transition there.
That's okay.
Yeah. Well, you know all about it, don't you? You already know. You know about Clean Streak, but there might be listeners who don't.
That's right.
The professional window and exterior cleaning service. It's run by our friend Brian Turner up there in Oak Harbor, proudly serving Island and Skagit counties for more than 10 years. You have any kind of cleaning project there at home, give them a call. Window washing, pressure washing, get those gutters clean, stay off the ladders. Don't get on the roof. Let Brian Turner and his crew come and handle it for you. Give them a call at 360-395-5748 or visit acleanstreak.com. That's acleanstreak.com to get a free estimate today. All right?
That's perfect. All right.
Do it.
I will
Brian's
call them.
guy.
I'm going to call them. I'm good. I need my windows clean. Who doesn't need clean windows? All right, Wednesday's show, it always includes Jim Moore here for the first 25 minutes, half an hour or so. Rob Staton will stop on by, and also Ryan Divish. Now, first on a Wednesday, we recorded earlier today with both Rob Staton and Ryan Divish. They both had stuff going on. They said, hey, can we squeeze it in? So, yeah, we squeezed it in. So I got nothing. This is an easy-peasy day for me, I'll tell you that. It's nice.
Okay. Well, that's good.
That's
so
great.
When you say let's go to Rob Staton at 10:30 and we're going to say goodbye to you now, Jim, you're not really going to him. It's in the can and you have it ready to go.
Yeah. But I tell people that I'm an open book. I let everyone know we've recorded it. I don't do the old radio bit like I never did it back in the radio as well. I don't do the whole radio bit where we pretend we're live. Like, it's just whatever. Just say it's recorded.
That. Yeah, no, it doesn't make that big of a difference anyway. You're still going to have good stuff from Rob Staton. You're still going to have Divish talking about for half an hour moves the Mariners haven't made. We
didn't really, today's visit didn't have a lot to do with the Mariners moves that they haven't made at all. And I'll give you a tease. Don't expect any moves at all before the start of the season. Don't expect anything. We talked just a lot about Ichiro, just him going to the Hall of Fame, him covering Ichiro, why he voted for Felix Hernandez, because he did. He has a great fear, though. He has an extreme amount of fear that he left Ichiro off his ballot, that he may be the one.
What? How?
Because he said, in midst of doing everything that he knew, he's like, Ichiro, first ballot Hall of Famer, yeah. But he votes for 10 people, and he was telling me that a big focus for him this year was Felix, because he was going to vote. He's voting for Felix, so he's coming out with the column, and so a lot of his attention was on Felix, and that he usually every year takes a screenshot and then sends it to the Ryan Thibodeau, not Mr. Tibbs, who, you know who that guy is. I think most people know who he is. He does all the Hall of Fame tracking. He's a great resource, and people send him their ballots, and then he makes them public. He didn't do it this year. He forgot. So he has this fear that, oh my God, what if I'm the guy that left him off by accident? And I told Divish, I hope you are the guy. It would be the best thing in the world if you, because you're ADHD, because he's got it, and I'm not making light of that. I'm just saying that's what he has. That if in the midst of everything you were doing, you forgot to put him on, the guy who covered him in Seattle, Divish would be dragged. Oh, it would be so much fun to watch.
Well, I heard your interview with Larry Stone yesterday. And Larry sounded like he was looking for the voters that didn't vote for Griffey the first time around. And so is there someone out there who does that kind of research and could track down the one voter that didn't go for Ichiro here? And I can't imagine it being Divish, though. I'm sure that he put an X or a check mark next to Ichiro's name.
It's not because, but it wouldn't be because he didn't want to vote him as a Hall of Fame member. It's just his fear is in the midst of the focus for him was being Felix, knowing, Ichiro's in, but I want to make sure I get these, because he told me is that most years I vote for 10 because I want to keep guys on the ballot. And he goes, and so his fear is, I'll get to Ichiro in a second. I'll check his name off, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I forgot.
That would be awesome.
Oh, it would be an all-timer.
Yeah,
absolute
I think Ichiro
all-timer.
would understand that, though, wouldn't he? That explanation?
Oh, I'm not sure.
No, I think he would. I think he'd be okay with that. He would understand.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he would understand.
Felix, what Felix get? 20% of the vote?
20, yeah, something like that. 20.6. So I missed out on the Mitch Unfiltered prediction show 2025. I said 50%, just a little
50%.
Off. Well,
would you vote for Felix? I don't think he did quite enough. But since we're in Seattle, we're supposed to say, "Oh yeah, I would have voted for him."
You know, we talked about this. Like, I think you got to know right away if he's a Hall of Famer.
No, it's debatable with him. I mean,
I'm on the edge,
how
but
terrific he was.
Not quite for a decade, but pretty close. He was one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball. So, and I think because we're here, I probably would, and we talked about it, though. It's what's going to prevent him from doing it or, from getting in is just the postseason. The postseason is going to be a factor for him. How it ended.
But why? Why would
because
the postseason be a factor?
Because I just think it does. I think
But it wasn't his fault.
No, it's 100% not his fault. No, not at all. But I think voters... I think with pitchers, for some reason, put a lot of emphasis on that. Not everything, but a lot of emphasis on that. I think it changes the way you view a starting pitcher, the big game pitcher. Not his fault. Not his fault at all that he didn't get those opportunities. If he doesn't get in, it really is the organization that failed him.
Well, I'm just not so sure that he did it for long enough. I mean, we know how dominant he was, and I think he was stubborn toward the end of his career, too. I remember Scott Service one time talking about how they wanted him to be more of a pitcher and change what he was doing. And Felix kept trying to rely on what he always relied on, and he wasn't that pitcher anymore. And I think his stubbornness might have cost him the Hall of Fame, because I think if he had changed a little bit, that he still could have gotten in.
Jim, I agree with you. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I mean, from the age of 20 to 29, pretty damn good, man. That's almost a decade. He's pretty damn good. He broke in. I mean, that's the thing is he broke in at 19. So, yeah. I mean,
you always forget that, I mean, for a pitcher to break in at 19, come on. And we know how fantastic Felix was, and we know how many 2-1 losses that he had, and if he played for the Yankees, what his pitching record would have been. The year that he won the Cy Young, he had a losing record win-loss wise, and he deserved to win that year. He probably should have won a couple other years too, just a flamboyant guy too. He was always fun to watch. And the perfect game that he threw too. That was just, the highlight of his career. It was
Well,
fantastic.
and you're right. If they'd won more games, if he was on the national stage and performed in the postseason, I just think that then you have a different view of Felix, and he is he was a pleasure to watch. He just was unfortunately just on some bad baseball teams. But Divish and I did talk towards the end that those last few years, that is on him. He was stubborn. I think when he turned 30, and in his body, and listen, he'd been pitching since he's 19. His body was declining on him. He didn't listen. I'm not going to tell anyone to put the work in at the gym, because obviously I don't put the work in at the gym. But I'm also not a professional athlete. Obvious. I think that's obvious to everyone. But yeah, I think had he taken better care of himself when he hit 30, which is, ancient, right, for professional athletes, I think he could have pitched 3, 4, or 5 more years. He could have been Justin Verlander. And then maybe that gets him in. But once he went south, right, at 30, 31, once he went south, it went south fast.
Yeah, it was hard to watch too, because we all remember Felix in the prime of his career. And what is ERA the last year or two with the Mariners? What was it, over 5?
His last year in 19 was 6.40.
Yeah. And then where'd he go? Baltimore and Atlanta. It never really worked out.
Well, remember, he was going to make the rotation in Atlanta, then COVID.
Yeah.
Remember?
So, no, I'm sure Felix has some regrets, and I'm sure he's, wanting to get in, but thinking, well, I probably didn't do enough. Or maybe he thinks he did do enough. I don't know. But I disagree with Divish on that one. I don't think I would have voted for him. And I love Felix. I mean, we love Felix, but if you look at all these numbers, the longevity, and you're right, Puck. I mean, when you break in at 19 and you're 30, that's like, a guy breaking in at 24 when he's 35. So, I mean, he was pretty much shot by the time he got in his early 30s.
And he should have had more than one Cy Young. He got robbed of that. He should have had at least 2 Cy Young awards. But we'll see. But it's a great starting point at 20.6%. That's a great starting point for him. And we'll see. I mean, we see guys that have started lower who have ended up, getting into the Hall of Fame. I think Billy Wagner, his first year, he was less than that, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Was there any part of you that thought, okay, let's see, Sabathia went in, yeah, CC Sabathia, we all remember him. Do we all remember Billy Wagner?
Well, I mean, I do. We do. We're old enough.
But, does he just, strike you yeah,
yes.
Billy Wagner. Okay, I'm glad he got in.
Well, look at his numbers. Yeah.
No, I know.
This is what drives me nuts with these guys. It's like the NFL, and I was talking to maybe it was Larry yesterday. I don't know who it was, but a punter and a kicker is a position in the league, right? But yet do we have 1 or 2 in the Hall of Fame? Why? There should be more people in the Hall of Fame for that position.
Agreed.
And then for relievers and bullpen, Billy Wagner was dominant. It shouldn't have taken him 10 years to get in.
Well, maybe it's just, Alzheimer's setting in or whatever, but I'm going, Billy Wagner, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, CC Sabathia, of course we remember.
Do you
him.
think Andrew
the
Jones should
lefty and what he was doing?
Do you think Andrew Jones should be in? I can't believe Andrew Jones is not in.
Yeah.
The guy's a 10-time Gold Glove winner.
Who was it? Chipper Jones was saying if he played for the Yankees, he'd be in.
Well, he played. Okay, well that's stupid. He played for the Braves. Not the Braves are the Braves were the only team. I mean, when he played,
the Braves were America's team way back when.
Yeah, but they've always been a popular team. He's not playing for the Rays.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe he gets boosted if he plays for the Yankees, but yeah, I think Andrew Jones is in. I don't think there should be a debate about that. Well, whatever. What do you want the person? I've been thinking a lot about this. Do you want the person revealed who didn't vote for Ichiro?
Yes. Doesn't everyone? You don't want him revealed?
I don't.
Well, if it's Divish, you do.
Only if it's Divish.
And why don't you want him revealed?
I think my answer may surprise you. I think in this toxic, shitty society we live in right now, this person would be, it would be so ugly what people would say and do to this person. And I just don't think it's worth it. Social media is such a crappy.
Look at Puck showing the heart.
Yeah, I think social media and media in general is such a toxic place right now. And again, I disagree with whoever did it. It doesn't make sense to me. I agree. There's part of me would love to hear the explanation, but you know what people are like, Jim. People are the worst. Like, especially now, people are so bad.
Okay, Puck.
So there's just part of me that wouldn't want to see the person revealed, because his life their life would just be turned upside down. And maybe people are saying, well, it should be because he didn't vote for him.
All right. I like where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I do like where you're going with that. I wrote something about the Mariners in the News Tribune yesterday, and there were a few comments on Twitter. And one of them, the guy said that he actually hoped that John Stanton would die. And I'm just kind of going, I'm looking at it. He was like, don't judge me, Jim. And I'm going, well, yeah, I kind of have to judge you on that one, because there are people in this world that I really dislike. There's one over at the other radio station.
Let's not ask for death, please.
But I don't want anyone to die. I don't want those people to die.
What was your column? My apologies, I didn't see it.
No, that's okay. It was just, writing about how the Mariners aren't going to do anything.
Okay.
And, it's the same old. Okay. So you've read stuff from Varel like this, But anyway, it's when he wrote that, I thought, God, I don't want John Stanton to die. I don't. Yeah, would I like him to sell the team? Sure, but die? No. I mean,
that's a little much.
And the other thing, how about Mark Andrews? Mark Andrews getting death threats.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Come on, and you see what the Bills Mafia was doing?
No,
they had a fundraiser, a PayPal fundraiser for Mark Andrews, and they're going to donate to his favorite charity all the money they get. And I think they got like 10 grand. There's a part of me, the cynical part of me, that's going, yeah, well, is it because you're happy that he dropped those balls and fumbled? Or is it because you have a heart like Puck does?
This is kind of what I'm
vote for Ichiro.
This is what I'm kind of talking about. It's this. And listen, I'm a hypocrite for it because I brought on Ben Nicholson Smith and then berated him.
You did do that.
Yeah.
So
berated him.
So do you have comment regret now?
To a degree, probably.
It was good sports radio. Because it was awkward as hell, and I just sat there enjoying the hell out of it. But
I do to a degree. Now I don't think
why don't you call Ben and apologize?
Oh, I don't got time for that.
I'm kind of you do. I'm enjoying the softer side of Puck here.
No, I'm just saying that if this person was revealed, it's just the stuff they'd have to endure to people being outraged about it. I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm not outraged. I would like to understand why. I would love for it to be someone like Divish who just accidentally forgot to put him on there. But if there's someone out there who didn't put him on and because why? Like what's the reason behind it? It shouldn't take away from Ichiro. I thought it would be cool if he were to go in unanimously because he'd have been the first position player to do it and he's ours. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you were the guy that didn't vote for him, would you want to remain anonymous, or would you want to come out and say, okay, listen, everybody's like ripping me. Here's why I didn't vote for each of you.
No, I'd want to be I'd want to be anonymous.
Yeah, but
I almost said unanimous.
Isn't that kind of weak? And I know, as a sports writer, I remember, and Larry Stone talked about this too, and I think a lot of other sports writers, like when you have a critical column, I always wanted to show up in the clubhouse or in the locker room the next day and at least show myself. And maybe the guy read it and maybe he didn't, but I didn't want to be one of those guys who was just like banging out a critical piece on somebody and then just not show up. So if I'm a guy who didn't vote for Ichiro, I'd be like, okay, I'm raising my hand here. I'm going to take accountability. And I would say,
but that's, you were from a different age, man. Social media wasn't a thing. Like you had to deal with the player. Oh yeah, that's fine. You deal with the player and it's over. Now you got to deal with thousands and thousands of angry mobs of people now.
No, you do. But what do you think it was? I mean, if you had to do a character profile of the guy that, I mean, are we assuming he's like old as shit like me, or just like old baseball guy that was like seeing some numbers? Well, he hit too many singles and his OPS wasn't what it could have been.
I don't think it was any of that. I think it's if I were to guess, I think it's pretty simple. I think it's one is maybe the person wanted to get others on the ballot to keep him on, and the person knew Ichiro's going to get in the Hall of Fame. That would be maybe one theory. The other theory would be, hey, if Derek Jeter's not going to get in unanimously, if Babe Ruth and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, all these other position players that were deserved to be in first ballot, Ken Griffey Jr., then he's not going to be the first one. I'll reserve the first one as a position player for someone who played for a better franchise. That's kind of what I think it is.
More amazing to me than Ichiro getting one guy who didn't vote for him is Ken Griffey Jr. having three. The best baseball player I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of baseball players, and I loved Willie Mays, but I think I'd put Junior ahead of Willie.
Yeah.
I mean, and there were three.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
Okay, so now let me ask you this, because I threw this out. I actually texted Larry Stone this, and was curious after talking to Larry yesterday what he thought about it. And then I put it out on Twitter, because I thought about it. It was the first thing that came to mind when then I saw the news from our good pal. Well, we used to call him our good pal. I don't think he likes you. Maybe he likes you. I don't think he likes me anymore. Kevin Martinez. When I saw Kevin Martinez, who now is the Graham Poobah over there, running all things.
He likes you.
I don't think so anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard from Kevin in a while. Kevin, if you're out there, I still like you very, very much. They made the announcement. What?
Go ahead.
They made the announcement they're retiring his number 51, and the first thing I thought of was, should that be retired for two people? I mean, honestly, I always have thought that when they do retire the number, it should be retired for both. For Ichiro and Randy Johnson. And I threw it out there, and it's been great. It's a great back and forth, and people are making great points on either side. But I do believe that these are two players that have equal right to the number for the Mariners. And the other teams have retired two numbers, or the same number for two people. It's happened before in other organizations. So the Yankees have done it. And I don't know if the Mariners will eventually do it. Now, Randy's number has been retired for the Diamondbacks, but not with the Mariners. And I understand his relationship with the Mariners is not the same as some of these past players, and especially how it ended with him and all that. But he pitched more seasons in Seattle than Arizona. He won more games in Seattle. He's all of his, most of his, obviously games played and starts and wins are going to be higher in Seattle because he played 2 more years in Seattle. Now, again, 4 of his 5 Cy Youngs, God, it's amazing. 5 Cy Youngs for that guy. 4 of the 5 came in Arizona. He won a World Series in Arizona. Now, I've heard this retort on Twitter a lot. He chose to go in as a Diamondback. He didn't choose. There was a debate. He had a debate about what hat he was going to pick. I read a lot about this last night. There was a internal debate with him which hat he was going to wear. The Baseball Hall of Fame plays a large role in what hat you go in as a member. And they had many discussions with Randy, and they all came to the conclusion that he would go in as a Diamondback because the Hall of Fame has a lot of influence over it. And the reason they do is because, do you remember when Wade Boggs went into the Hall of Fame, what hat he wanted to go in as?
What, did he want to go in as a Red Sox?
Nope.
Where else was he? The Angels?
Tampa Bay Rays. You want to know why?
I don't know. Was he from there?
No, because they offered him $10 million to go, $10 or $11 million to go in as a Ray.
Well, I don't blame him then.
I know. Neither do I. Hall of Fame stepped in and said, no, you're not going to do that. You made your career in Boston. You're going in as a Red Sox. I'm not saying Randy didn't have an influence over it, but it's not 100% solely his decision.
God, it should be, shouldn't it?
Well, no, because then you get no, because then you get a situation like Wade Boggs, where he goes in as a Ray. No one remembers him as a Tampa Bay Ray.
I forgot he played there.
You remember him as a Red Sox. Maybe they should not go in as any. Whatever.
God, what a hitting machine he was. And then wasn't there something else too?
Beer. He would drink a case of beer on the flight from East Coast to the West Coast, or West Coast to the East Coast, and then Jeff Nelson
field thing with girls too, or something.
I don't know. Jeff Nelson told me a story. He saw him drink a case of beer on a flight one time from, I think, the West Coast to the East Coast, or vice versa. Got off the plane sober as hell and said, "Hey, are we going out to drink?"
That's impressive. That's more impressive than how many hits he had.
I agree. So what do you think? I believe Randy should have 51 retired as well. Number 3 in wins, number 2 in win-loss percentage in franchise history, number 1 in hits per 9 innings, number 1 in K per 9 innings, 3rd in innings pitched in franchise history, number 2 in strikeouts, number 2 in complete games. 51 complete games when that used to be a thing. Number 1 in shutouts in franchise history with 19. Number 1 in ERA, but that's also tied with Felix. Iwakuma, and I bet you can't name the last one. Career ERA for a Mariner, 3.42.
Paul Abbott.
No. You'll never guess. Abbotsford, British Columbia. James
Nick
Paxton.
Taylor.
James Paxton. No, wait. Isn't James Paxton from Abbotsford, or is that Nick Taylor?
Nick Taylor is.
Where's James Paxton from?
Damn
it.
God, it's one of those Vancouver suburbs, isn't it?
Okay, but he's from British Columbia. Hey, Enter Sandman. All right, so it's Randy Johnson, Felix Hernandez, Iwakuma, James Paxton. I think he deserves to have his number retired as well, but we'll see.
I do too. And is it at the time though? There was never any talk about Ichiro wearing 51, hey, Randy wore that, they might retire that down the road, should he pick another number? There was never any talk about that.
There wasn't, but remember, there probably should have been at the time. Remember how poorly it ended, and several people have said, well, he forced his way out of Seattle. He didn't force his way out. He wanted a new contract. Chuck Arnold said he's done. Chuck Arnold said we're not giving him more money. His back is going to give out. He went on to win 4 Cy Young Awards.
What was he at the time? Was he like 33 when he left here?
Hold on.
I mean, he was into his 30s anyway.
When did he leave? He was 34.
Yeah.
Or excuse me.
Okay.
34 years old.
No. Okay, I think here's a scenario I'd like to see. And it wouldn't be cool to a lot of people, but maybe it would be to you. I think it'd be kind of interesting if it happened. So August 9th, when they're celebrating Ichiro at T-Mobile, if Randy crashed the party and just said, hey man, and just went running out on the field and go, man, what about me? Remember me, the big unit? Yeah.
What if he comes back wearing 51 with his name on it? His name on it. Did I say his name on it? Okay. And then he's taking photographs.
Well, you make a great point. It should be half and half. And how do you think Ichiro would feel about that?
I don't know what their relationship is. And I should say Chuck Armstrong. I think I said Chuck Arnold. Chuck Arnold is the president of the Seahawks. Chuck Armstrong. Chuck Armstrong was the guy who walked around and was perpetually a little hammered.
Who corrected you there anyway?
Ian Furness did. Sorry, Ian, going to out you that you're listening and watching
now?
I don't know, but he's got a show that starts at noon. Still working 3 hours.
On that Kraken pre and post game.
He's great on it. He's great on the team's not good.
I haven't really seen much of it. I just assume he's doing great though.
Team's not good, but
Why's the Kraken suck, man? What? You got to try and get Benton on here sometime.
Mike Benton.
I miss Mike Benton. I do.
I heard him do play-by-play the other day. I've never heard him do play-by-play. He's really good.
But he's great.
He's really good.
He's great at everything.
Yeah, Chuck Armstrong. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah. No, I don't know. You retire half. Can you do that?
Yeah, other teams have done it.
The Yankees probably have some.
Yes,
guys
it's somebody. It's hold on, number 8. Hold on, I'll look it up. But they've done it.
Like Yogi, number 8. You said Yogi.
Is that Yogi Berra?
Yogi Berra and somebody else.
Hold on, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yankees retired 8 for Yogi Berra and Bill Dickey. Yeah. So
that's a column waiting to happen. What you're bringing up there.
Well, then write the column. Come on, Jim Moore, go-to guys, Substack.com.
I'll throw it out there and I'll give you credit.
Do it. I'd like to see it. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'd like to see it.
Aren't we just supposed to celebrate Ichiro though?
I am.
We're just supposed to celebrate him and not create controversy. But look at you and what you're doing.
I'm not creating
You're just
controversy.
trying to get page views and clicks and.
It's just the first thing I thought of when they made the announcement. When they made the announcement, I was like, shouldn't they both get it?
They should. It's not really debatable.
Yeah,
it's not.
All right, we're running out. We got to go. You got it. Where are you at now? Ely, Nevada, on your way back to Bend, Oregon?
Yeah, Ely, Nevada. It's
never heard of it.
250 miles north of Las Vegas. And we're heading through Jackpot on our way to Boise. And then we're going to the Dalles tomorrow by 2:00. My wife has a doctor's appointment there.
Okay.
So, and then we're going back up to Bend after that.
Update January 22nd on Dry January. You've got 9 days to go.
9 days to go. And this has been the most difficult month of not drinking ever. I mean, I've only had one other month where I did it once in February, but you can't believe how many times I've wanted to have a cocktail or a straight shot or a beer or all of the above all at once. And I want to guzzle every single one of them. I mean, my wife and I got in an argument last night. I got in an argument with my daughter during this month. I've been in 3 different casinos. I've been in bars. I've had Mexican food. And every time anybody who goes into a Mexican place, it's like Pavlov's dogs. I mean, you want to have a margarita.
Yeah, I know. I got you.
I'm drinking virgin margaritas. And
good for you, though. You feel better. You're sleeping better. You look better. It's good. Keep it up.
No, I look better. Look at me. I look like shit.
Well, I'm trying to make you feel better. Don't worry about it. All right, Friday we got to talk about Mel Kiper's mock draft came out. Number 1 player off the board.
It's not Cam Ward, is it?
Cam Ward from the Washington State University.
Cam Ward's going to be the next Jameis Winston.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, you're not a Cam Ward fan. You don't think he's going to succeed in the NFL, do you?
I'm not.
Okay, maybe he'll succeed. Maybe he'll succeed, but would you pick him number 1 overall? God,
I would not. I would not.
No,
I would not.
Come on.
All right.
I'd take Sanders over him, but I mean, these guys who follow it for a living know more about it than I do. And maybe he'll be like Jaden Daniels. Well, Jaden Daniels at ASU, remember he wasn't that great, and look at him now. Maybe Cam Ward will be doing that.
Perhaps that could be the case, sir. All right. You have fun of your rest of your stay in Ely, Nevada. Safe travels. We'll talk to you on Friday. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Puck. Go Cougs. See you later.
Go Cougs. There he is, Jim Moore, the go-to guy. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays brought to you by A Clean Streak. All right, we mentioned this earlier, but caught up with Rob Staton and Ryan Divish today. They both had to record early, and that's okay. It doesn't take away from our conversation. Great conversation with Rob Staton from SeahawksDraftBlog.com. As Rob and I talked all things Seahawks offensive coordinator search, cap casualties, Byron Murphy. I mean, listen, I'm just going to play the interview. I'm not going to sit there and talk about it because you're going to hear it right now. Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Here we go. It's time for the Rob Staton podcast, all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Superior Linen Service committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com or give them a call 253-383-2636. They finally put you away, right? You went to the insane asylum. Finally, they locked you up in a padded room. It's about time London responded to your anarchy.
Yes, I'm in a padded cell here in the I'm in the second city, Puck, as it is known here in England, of Birmingham.
Ooh.
So this is not Birmingham, Alabama. This is Birmingham, England.
Similar, I would assume.
Well, the weather's probably a little different. It's practically freezing in England this week, so it's probably very different weather-wise. But yeah, they've locked me away for some bad Seahawks takes, I think.
Yeah, a bad Seahawks takes. All right, we're going to get into a lot of it. We'll talk about the OC search, defensive cap casualties. If there's going to be guys that they're going to trim the fat off of there on the defensive side. I want to ask you about Byron Murphy's first season, your take on that one. Tariq Woolen, what to do as he's going into the final year of his contract. And Mel Kiper has released his first mock draft. God, it's mock draft season. You love mock drafts. You know mock drafts all the time. You wrote about Geno and Pete with the Raiders. That's fascinating. And then there's a nugget that came out from Albert Breer today that we got to talk about in regards to the OC search. So we'll get to all that. We'll try to get to all of it here in the next 25, 30 minutes. All right, let's start with the OC search. Hank Fraley came back in for another interview. So he, along with, Kubiak got a second one in person. That was what Garofalo told me last week, where he said he's in the driver's seat for it. They also brought in the whiz kid from the Vikings as well. And so where are we at right now? Do you have a personal preference who you want? Or you're just like, well, it doesn't matter, just get the right guy?
Yeah, I have to say I'm quite intrigued by the names they've come up with. I didn't want some retread who's had 100 jobs, has not really done anything. You know, people were clamoring for Brian Schottenheimer again, and thank goodness it looks as if the Dallas Cowboys are going to appoint him as their head coach for some reason.
Unbelievable.
I didn't want to go down that path. You know, I wanted something different. I don't think the fact that Ryan Grubb was not a success means you should be risk averse, or at least to the extent that you feel like you can't go for somebody who's not that experienced. So I think it's a good mix. You know, you've got Clint Kubiak, who's been around a lot of good coaches, who I think is an interesting candidate. You've this Grant Yadinsky, who is 28 years old. You know, if everybody who's been around him says that he's something a bit special. So I like the idea of giving someone like that a try. And then you've got Hank Fraley, who is a very different candidate who, you know, if you want to prioritize fixing your offensive line, then he would be the kind of person that you would imagine you would bring in to do that. So I'm happy, Puck, whoever they go with, to give it a go. I'm intrigued by all of the candidates. I don't think there was ever a home run hire. Right. So I think the broad search that has been led has been a good thing.
You sent me this note. It's an interesting little nugget from Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated, where he wrote in a little like a news and notes segment, Seahawks OC situation is an interesting one. They could consider splitting up the job. So one thing is Breer writes to consider is that they bring in Hank Fraley, who they like, who is the offensive line coach with the Lions, bring him in as the offensive coordinator, but specifically works with the running game. And then he would hire a passing game coordinator, and the name that Breer threw out was Scott Turner of Vegas. So splitting up the role, having a passing game coordinator, bringing Hank Fraley as the offensive coordinator, but he's really more the run guy, and kind of splitting up the job. What do you think of that idea? Do you like that?
I think people have perhaps forgot outside of Seattle that the Seahawks have already done this. They had Darrell Bevel.
Right.
And Tom Cable. And Tom Cable was kind of like the run game guy, the guy who would manage Marshawn Lynch. He was the one person, I think, on the staff that Marshawn Lynch related to. And he looked after that and the offensive line, obviously. And then you had Darrell Bevel, who was the offensive coordinator, but essentially called the plays and looked after the passing game side of things. So this isn't anything really that new to the Seahawks. I could easily see this kind of an arrangement happening. I suppose the question is, who calls the plays? Are you bringing in Hank Fraley in this instance to essentially be a glorified offensive line coach with a better title and maybe a bit more money, and then saying to Scott Turner, you call the plays, you do all of that stuff? And then is Scott Turner the kind of person who can do a good job if that is the arrangement? Because he's been working in Vegas. He had his dad with him in Vegas. So there was Scott and Norv Turner working in Vegas together, which was a little bit strange, given that Norv Turner's not been in and around the game for a long time now. So is he ready to sort of go it alone without his dad sat next to him in the booth? That is an interesting question. So I'm not opposed to that idea. Puck, you and I have spent many, many hours over the last 12 months saying they need to fix the offensive line. If Hank Fraley can fix the offensive line, then I'm down for it. And there's one other thing I would say is, Grant Yadinsky and Clint Kubiak, their blocking schemes, they're from the Shanahan tree. That it's all from the same DNA, and that is a zone blocking system which values kind of movement and agility up front. I'm kind of ready to see some power and to see some aggression and to see some people movers up front. So if Hank Fraley is going to come in and acquire those kind of linemen and have that kind of style, I'd probably lean more towards that than a zone blocking scheme.
Yeah, I mean, whoever the candidate is, I love the style of play that Detroit plays offensively. I love that. I just love it. It's fun. It's old school. They get under center a lot more. It's just there's something very appealing about the way they play. Now you've got to have the guys up front to deliver it and the running backs to have that system. But yeah, I like how they do it. I'm not opposed to it because, to your point, which I forgot, they've already done it. It's interesting because I remember at the end of that tenure, there became like this riff. Well, who's calling the plays? Like if Cable wants to run the ball, does he jump over Darrell Bevell and tell him to run the ball? Does Darrell Bevell have autonomy to call the plays? I remember it came to head in the Super Bowl. Like, who the hell called the play? You know what? You have three guys there, Cable, Bevel, and then Pete Carroll, and wondering, well, wait a minute, we've got Marshawn Lynch. Why didn't we just run the ball? And then we can never really get a clear answer on that one. I'm not trying to bring up bad memories for all Seahawks fans, but I do. The only thing I could see it being an issue of having like it split is just you don't have one guy doing it. And sometimes I just like having one general. Just you call the plays, it's your offense, go, rather than saying, I don't know if we should run that. I don't know if we should do this. Then it could cause a little bit of an issue. But I don't know.
I'm with you on that. It's a concern, isn't it? Like the idea that you would have two people running an offense is not something we're used to. It may work. It is something that did work for a time in Seattle until it didn't. But I must admit, there is this great idea of having one guy who, in a couple of years, let's say, has been such a success in Seattle that he gets a head coaching job somewhere else. That's the kind of world you live in with this defensive-minded head coach. Maybe that's what they should set out to try and achieve here. And maybe having two people doing it might just lead to a bit of a jumbled mess at times, but I don't know. Hank Fraley seems like a great communicator, by the way, so maybe he can handle this.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because I mean they have to outbid these other teams for him because he's going to have plenty of options, right? Whether it's he goes to Chicago with Ben Johnson, does he stay in Detroit, just become the new offensive coordinator under Dan Campbell? So it's not like it's just an easy decision to pick up and move and go to a completely different organization, but. Oh, I don't know. Come on, Jody. Throw as much money at him as you possibly can. Give him a yacht. Give him one of Paul's old yachts.
I don't think he wants a yacht. I mean, if you want Hank Fraley that badly, I think a great steak dinner might do it as opposed to a yacht.
Okay, John Howie Steak. John, you watch, you listen, you support Puck Sports. Let's give Fraley, that private room you have, John. Let's give Fraley that room. Like, this is your room. You get to come here every Friday, no questions asked. Maybe that's it.
There we go.
I mean, that's all it takes.
We've sorted. I'm sorry. You should be the GM.
Yeah, well, that would be great. I'd last a week on the job, a day on the job. Defensive cap casualties. We start looking at the defense and where they may start trimming from. We did this exercise last week or a couple of weeks ago with the offense, Rob. What about the defense? I would assume for many people, I'm going to throw you in there, that Draymond Jones is the first one that comes to mind.
Absolutely. It just hasn't delivered in the slightest. I wish they hadn't restructured his contract because it's going to make it a little bit more expensive to part ways. But if they cut him, they will save $11.5 million. This is the thing about the Seahawks. It's like whatever happens moving forward, they've got to fix the offensive line. They've got to invest in quarterbacks. And they've also got to avoid this situation where they have tens of millions of dead money just wasted on players playing somewhere else. So to cut Draymond Jones, it's going to cost them $14 million. That's just dead money they will absorb. So they've got to get out of the habit of doing that. Draymond Jones has got to be in the mix there. I think there's a serious question has to be asked about Chenna and Wosu. I suspect they might keep him around, but at $21.2 million for a player who's barely played for you for the last two seasons, I think you have to look at that and say, you're better off having an $8 million saving than paying him $21 million. I don't know what the answer to that is. They may well keep him around. They seem to like him. There might be something they can do there, but that's a very expensive player who has not contributed for two seasons. I think it's pretty obvious that. By the way, can you do the Roy Robertson Harris lawyer group impression?
Yes, yeah. Welcome to my new law firm. It's Roy Robinson Harris. We represent the finest clients in all the South and America. You got your house broken into? Roy Robinson Harris law firm will take care of you. You got into an accident? Call Roy Robinson Harris.
That's the thing I love about it is when it's the Harris.
Harris. It's perfect. He should be when he's done playing, he should open up a law firm. Even if he's not a lawyer, just open it up and pretend to be a lawyer.
Well, he may have that opportunity because he played about 2 snaps in the last 3 weeks. So he $6.6 million with no dead money there. He's a goner. Even if they bring him back on a cheap contract, they're not going to give him $6.6 million. So he's gone. So they're really the main 3, I think. Jones, Nwosu, Roy Robertson Harris. It's whether or not they want to cut Rayshon Jenkins. They can save $5.3 million.
Why wouldn't you, though? What's the point of keeping him around?
I suppose he's $7.8 million cap hit, which is not cheap, but they might. It's how much is it going to cost to replace him, I guess. And that's what they're going to have to weigh up. But there are some savings to be made there. It is a good defensive line draft. So, players like Draymond Jones, they should be able to replace him on the cheap. There's some decent safeties available as well. So they may well have an opportunity to replace some of these guys.
What about Tariq Woolen? He will be going into his last year of his rookie contract. This is when the Seahawks and most teams start negotiating a deal with one of their own. What do you think the future holds for Woolen and the Seahawks?
Well, he's pretty much the most frustrating player that has played in Seattle for a while. and I say that because people can come up with players they don't like or who weren't very good. People say, well, about Jamal Adams, well, I think he was just a clown. In the end, I don't think he was particularly frustrating. And then you have Tariq Woolen, and the frustrating thing with him is when he's at his best, Puck, you could easily see him being one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And then when he's at his worst, you want to give him a kick up the arse. Yeah. Like there's some really frustrating games where, he's had teammates, Julian Love, running over to him saying, what are you doing there? On the field, he has games where he's a total liability. And then he has games where you think there aren't many people on the planet who can do what he does. And I am extremely wary of paying this guy, because if he's like this now when he's a late round rookie and has not made significant life-changing money, what is he going to be like if he does that? So I think the Seahawks have 2 options. They either just let him see out his contract, play his final year, and you just benefit from that because you haven't got a lot of quarterback depth for the next 12 months, and then you just play it by ear. And I would lean against, even if he has a great season, not signing him to a massive extension. Or you open up to teams at the combine and go, does anybody want this guy? The problem with that is that if you trade him away, like I said, the Seahawks do not have a lot of cornerback depth right now. But what I would say to that is I thought he did a decent job with Josh Jobe, Mike McDonald. And in Baltimore, they obviously had Marlon Humphreys, but they also just basically filled in the positions otherwise. So if you can say, well, we've got Devin Witherspoon and we can fill in with a couple of other positions, I think they could do that if they did want to trade Tariq Woolen to a team who thinks, yeah, we're happy to take a chance on this guy.
Boye Mafe.
No. Well, Boye Mafe's...
Same deal, right? Same situation.
Yeah. Do you agree that he pretty much looks like he's going to be in the good, not great, that he's never going to reach great?
Right. But you want good. You need good, right? Because good equals depth.
Definitely. So I think what you have to do with Boye Mafe is, again, go into the contract year, see how he plays this year, see if he can take another step. And then if he just basically has the same season that he's had for the last 2 seasons, then I think you have to allow him to hit free agency and then see where you go from there. I don't want to pay. I think if you pay people now like Mafe, you're going to end up paying a great contract for a good player. Okay. And I'm always a bit dubious of that. I think they should really reserve paying great players great money.
That's fair. Byron Murphy. I brought this up with Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree on the Ground Puck podcast on Monday, and I'm just curious your thoughts. You sit back and evaluate the first year of their first round pick. Your reaction to his rookie campaign.
Well, you graded him between the three of you, and I was trying to think when I was listening what my grade was, and I think it's basically like a C plus, because this was a player who he did an interview with Marshawn Lynch right at the start of the season and said that his aim was to be Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he's not going to get close to that. I mean, you look at the impact of some people like Jared Verse, and you think, that's a difficult one to swallow because it is not with hindsight. I did a horizontal board and had Jared Verse as one of the best, handful of players in the draft. And then he goes and has a year like that. You think that's exactly what the Seahawks like right now. It's somebody who can complement Leonard Williams and be a game wrecker off the edge. And Byron Murphy did not show that ability. Now, there is plenty of people out there. I don't study it closely enough, Puck, to sort of have any opinion on this. But there's a lot of people out there saying that he did a good job, against the run, that he absorbed double teams and stuff like this. But, when you draft someone 16th overall, you expect maybe a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Can he get to that point? I have to say, watching him on tape at Texas, he was never an amazing pass rusher. He was not someone who was quick swim move, burst into the backfield, sack the quarterback. What he tended to do was get a lot of pressures via blunt force, and he did a good job anchoring and was more of a Grady Jarrett type in college than an Aaron Donald. But I went and had a look last night, and in college, his pass rush win percentage was 19.2%. And there isn't a defensive tackle in college football last season who got anywhere close to that. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that at least the people who studied that area of his game a lot more closely at Texas perhaps felt he was a much more effective pass rusher than I thought, watching just the tape. And therefore, maybe he just needs that bit of time. Grady Jarrett had a bit of a feel-in season when he got to Atlanta as a rookie and then took off. So the hope has to be that Byron Murphy will do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back. I think Jalen Carter ended up having 6 sacks his rookie season. Murphy's going to finish, what was it, 1.5, I believe?
Yeah.
On the year. I it's hard because I don't know what they're trying to and what they're asking him to do. Are they asking him to take on a double team? Are they asking him to take up a certain space to free up other players? And so I don't think he had any wow moments. I mentioned to those guys on Monday, there was the Jalen Carter moment against the Rams in the divisional round where he just took the guard or the center, whoever was blocking him, threw him out of the way, and he sacked Matt Stafford. And that was essentially the game. He ended the game, and for the Eagles win. I know Murphy never had a play like that this year.
No.
But I would also say, hey, they went from 31st in the NFL against the run to 16th. I got to imagine he played a large role in that, of allowing them to improve defensively against the run. But I'm with you. Where they drafted him, what you thought you were getting. And again, he's a rookie. I'm not going to overreact to his first year in the league. But you want a game wrecker, a difference maker. And, I certainly in his rookie season, he fell short of that.
The one thing I would say that is perhaps somewhat optimistic is Nnamdi Madubuike, formerly Justin Madubuike.
Sure.
In his first, obviously this was his first year in the NFL, he had 1 sack. Second year, he had 2. Then he started working with Mike McDonald. He got up to 5.5 sacks. And then in his second season with Mike McDonald, the 5.5 became 13 sacks. Now, in the season that's just finished at Baltimore, he went back down to 6.5. So it does seem to me as if Mike McDonald, and we've seen Leonard Williams have an amazing year, it does seem to me that McDonald, the evidence based on Madubuike is that he can get the best out of these players. So if it took him a couple of years, 2 or 3 years to get to his peak, if that happens with Murphy and he's working with the right head coach to enable him to have that success, I think probably in time we will see a player who justified the pick.
Yeah. I'm hopeful for him, and I'm not down on his rookie year at all. But we'll see what he can do there in year 2. All right. I mean, you love mock drafts. I mean, your website's called SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Mel Kiper has come out with his first one. They call it's like a holiday when he releases it. What are the names out there that initially for you at 18 are going to be viable options for Seattle? Just as now. I mean, everything can change, and we can throw names up the board all we want. But give me 2, 3, 4, whatever group of guys that Seattle and their fans should have their eye on at 18.
Before I answer that question, can I ask you what you think of mock drafts? Because I have to say, like, I do mock drafts. I absolutely hate mock drafts.
What do I think of them? I think they're fun. I know people. I don't put much stock in them at all, but I think it's fun. It's also, I treat it like the preseason poll in college football.
Yeah.
It's worthless, and they shouldn't do it actually, because it taints the season. It overvalues a team early on who's really not that good. They shouldn't really vote until after like week 4 or 5, like the first month of the season, and then they should come out with the poll. But I love it. When I was a kid, I loved getting my Sports Illustrated and looking at the top 25 preseason poll. So that's mock drafts for me, because it never, ever, at least for Seattle, ever ends up being the guy most often than
absolutely.
not. So, but I like people that put them out, because then I just, you read up on the players and you get to know the guys and all that. But
I think the thing is like someone like Mel Kiper, whatever you think of Mel Kiper, there's absolutely no disputing whatsoever that he puts in the work and that he has contacts. So even though his mock draft that he's put out today or this week will probably have hardly any correct picks, because that's the nature of a mock draft.
Sure.
He puts in the work. The problem that I have is that we're at this time of the year now, Puck, and this is probably just someone who writes about the draft having a good old moan about this. But the vast majority of people who put these out don't do any work. They don't study the players. And when you've kind of studied the players for 3 or 4 months and you actually take the time to speak to people to get, people who actually know what they're talking about, to get their opinions, and then you put a mock draft and someone tells you don't know what you're talking about because this other person's put a mock draft out who spent about 10% of the time studying it makes you want to launch your laptop across the
I'm going to tell you, I mean, not like Mel Kiper and not you. I'm going to tell you these other people that put out these mock drafts, I know what they do. And the greatest creation for them is PFF.
Of course.
Because they go to PFF and they do the mock draft simulator. And then it spits out the mock draft, and then that's what I'm telling you. That's what they do.
You're absolutely right.
They base their mock draft on that. And they're like, "Well, this is who I've got going to the Raiders at 6." No, it's what the simulator told you.
The simulators, look, they're a lot of fun. And when you get close,
I like
to the
doing
draft,
it.
They're a lot of fun, man.
And I like to provide chaos, because then I take some rando at wherever the Seahawks pick.
The problem is the minute the boards are so wrong that the simulators will put guys who are going to go in the top 10 at like 300, and they'll put guys in the whatever. I've dodged your question long enough about who the Seahawks could be after. I think the thought, I'm going to write an article about it. I've written the article. It's going to come out later this week. Okay. I do think they have to consider the depth at the offensive line is so good that you don't have to take an offensive lineman at 18 or after a small trade down. I think they possibly should if someone like Tyler Booker is there, because Tyler Booker's a plug in and play left guard. He has been on a trajectory to the NFL since day one. He is exactly the kind of player they need: physical, finisher, great run blocker, unbelievable character, captain, tone setter, leader. He ticks every box. But there is every chance that, say, Cincinnati at 17 will want to draft him as well, and he won't be there at 18. But if he's there at 18, he has to be an option for you. If he's not there, I think you've basically got about 10 interior offensive linemen who are much of a muchness. So you might be able to get one at, say, 50 who is graded the same as someone who you would take at 18 or if you move down. So then you have to think about what are the other options. And there are a lot of good defensive linemen. If you're going to cut Draymond Jones, you have got players who, to give you some different names that people maybe aren't considering as much, you might be able to take someone like Michael Williams might last there because he's had a bit of an injury plagued last season at Georgia. He's very, very talented, a lot of potential there. Jordan Birch at Oregon. People don't really talk about him. Unbelievable size and athleticism, has got the potential to be an excellent player if you develop them right. And I think they've got the coach to develop someone like that to become an excellent player. You've got people like Walter Nolan and TJ Sanders. If Byron Murphy's never going to be that blow up a game pass rusher, perhaps you could pair a TJ Sanders or Walter Nolan with that kind of a player, or a Kenneth Grant, especially if Jaron Reed's not going to come back. Hopefully he will, but if he isn't, then you've got a bit of a hole at defensive tackle there. So I know that people are going, oh, not another defensive lineman, Rob, they need offensive lineman. I'm just sort of saying, and then you've got sort of pass rushers. I'm going to butcher his second name. Princely Umana Melian, I think it is, at Ole Miss.
Nailed it.
he transferred from Florida, unbelievable edge rusher, size, length. If they don't have a dominant edge rusher right now, maybe he could be that kind of a guy. And then you have to ask, where is a James Pierce going to go? Where is, a Mike Green going to go? Do you look at those players as well? So, yes, a lot of the talk is going to be on offensive linemen. And look, there's a bunch of guys at offensive line. It's not just Tyler Booker. Let me just give you a couple of those before we could have wrap up this section. These are some of the names I think people need to look out for. Josh Connolly is probably going to have to kick inside to guard. Aggressive, athletic, tone setter, local, brilliant. Donovan Jackson at Ohio State. Keep an eye on that guy. Mel Kiper went with Armand Membu. He finishes every run. So, when he's blocking against the run, he sends people to the turf. Great guy to keep an eye on. Wyatt Millam does the same thing at West Virginia. He cannot play left tackle. His feet, he's not got the footwork and the agility to do it. But as a tone-setting guard, he could be excellent. So someone like Wyatt Millam as well. And then, look, I don't know. People keep saying that Will Campbell's going to go in the top 10. I don't think he played well enough to justify that. So how far is someone like that going to fall? How far is someone like Kelvin Banks, who had a bit of a struggle towards the end of the year, had some injuries? How far are they going to fall? There's a few players out there that the Seahawks could target. So I think it's a trenches draft for the Seahawks. I think they can get a really good offensive lineman and a really good defensive lineman with their first two picks.
What's your thoughts quickly on Will Howard at Ohio State?
Will Howard is somebody I've been tracking for a long time. What I've got to remember here is Kansas State effectively moved on from Will Howard.
Yeah.
They were spelling him last year with the guy who started from, I think it's called Avery Johnson.
Yeah. Real quick guy, real twitchy quarterback. Yeah.
Really interesting. But they spelled him. So he'd take a series, Avery Jones would take a half. And he was basically shoved out the door from Kansas State and had to move on unless he was going to turn pro, and he didn't. He's gone to Ohio State. During the regular season, frustrating as heck to watch. During the playoffs, he's kind of lit things up. Now, I like him as a person. He seems like, I just love his attitude and his character. He's definitely got an arm. He's athletic. He's got the size. Does he have that special quality, though, Puck? Does he have that sort of starter in the NFL? And that's the problem with this draft class. You've got a lot. You can make an argument for him, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Milrow. You can make all of the guys, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. Oh, they do this, they do that. How many of these guys are special? And when you're looking for a quarterback, you're looking for special. And I'm not sure there's any of them in this class.
What do you think about? You wrote about it, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. I love it because it's just a great hypothetical, but actually could turn into a reality. Pete Carroll gets the job with the Raiders, calls his good buddy John Schneider and says, "You know what? Why don't you trade me Geno Smith?"
Well, listen, Pete was the biggest Geno guy. Geno Smith was at the press conference when Carroll announced. It didn't announce he was going, but it said he was saying his goodbyes and looked very emotional. And I'd always felt that Carroll was the Geno guy, Schneider was the Drew Lock guy after the Russell Wilson trade. So I think they were clearly open-minded about trading Geno a year ago, whether people want to accept that or not. That's why the quid pro quo tweet from Adam Schefter came out saying, hey, great value for the Seahawks or anybody who wants to trade for him. And there just wasn't a market there. And now you look at this and you think if Pete ends up at Vegas, and there's a lot of buzz that Pete's going to end up at Vegas, he doesn't have a quarterback. And he's probably not going to get one in this draft. Perfect bridge. Geno Smith. I think they have 2 picks in round 3, Puck. Why don't they give the Seahawks one of those picks? I think they have 70 and 71 or something like that.
Yeah, I'll look at it. Go ahead.
Give the Seahawks one of those picks. You move on from Geno Smith. And look, that'll be painful for a lot of Seahawks fans. And I'm no doubt going to get a lot of hate for saying that. But you draw a line under it. I think the Seahawks are going to review their options, because if they can't come to terms on a team-friendly deal with Geno Smith, they're going to have to. They'll know by the combine whether a team-friendly arrangement with Geno is possible. They're going to know whether Sam Darnold's going to hit the market at that point and whether they want to pursue that. They're going to have a better idea of what if they want to draft somebody. And this is the GM who moved on from Matt Hasselbeck, who moved on from Matt Flynn, who moved up from Russell Wilson. Are we honestly saying he's not prepared to take a risk and move on from Geno Smith? When they traded Russell Wilson, they had Geno Smith and Drew Lock on their roster.
Yeah, they had no plan.
He's prepared to take a risk and have no obvious plan of direction. So I think it's a possibility that Pete and Geno could be reunited in Vegas.
They've got obviously the 6th overall pick. They've in round 2, 37th, 2 in round 3, at least according to this website, the NFL mock draft database. I'm just going to take their word for it. It is the 68th and 73rd overall.
So they've got the stock to do it, and they've got huge cap space. I think they've got the second most cap space at the moment, and they've got the most for next year. So if Geno wants a big extension and wants some commitment and some more money, the Raiders are in an excellent place to give it him. Not saying it's definitely going to happen. The Seahawks could definitely do a deal with Geno, and it all comes back and it's great. But Geno's going to have to compromise here, and if he's unwilling to compromise, he could find himself taking on Patrick Mahomes and Bo Nix and Justin Herbert for the next couple of years instead.
That's good. It's good. I like it. The Rob Staton Show is all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Get a free quote today, suplinen.com. Give him a call, 253-383-2636. Get all of Rob's work up at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Video content is on his YouTube channel at Rob Staton Football. Follow him on X at Rob Staton. Full episode here up on YouTube. Search Puck Sports. When you're there, please subscribe on the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. Get there and please rate 5 stars. Only 5 stars. You can't go less than 5 stars. And you must write a 1,000 word review thanking for all the great work we do here. Okay. You can find it there and, of course, up at pucksports.com. Rob, appreciate the time. We'll chat next week.
Anytime, man. Thanks.
Again, big thanks to Rob Staton for joining the show earlier. We had to tape him this morning. He had stuff to do. He's locked up. Look at him. Looks like he's being interrogated, for crying out loud. Very interesting nugget in there. And again, if you're just joining us late in the live show, and if you're watching it later, as you know, on the podcast versions of it or listening to it, you already have caught it. But the dual splitting of the job of the offensive coordinator that Albert Breer has talked about, floated out. Hey, you hire Hank Fraley. He comes in. He technically is the offensive coordinator. He is then the running game coordinator, but then they go and hire a passing game coordinator, and they mentioned Scott, I think it's Scott Turner, who is with the Raiders. Would that be an idea for Seattle? And Albert Breer is a plugged-in guy, so again, if he's hearing it, it's probably being discussed. Seahawks have done it before. It worked until it kind of didn't work, and my preference would be just to hire one guy. He does everything, because then it takes out all the back and forth, as Rob and I discussed. Big thanks to Rob Staton again every Wednesday, brought to you by Superior Linen Service. I almost said SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Go check all of his work at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. He's got more of a write-up on that, what we talked about at the end, Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. Maybe it's a reunion there in Las Vegas. Earlier this morning, also caught up with Ryan Divish. He had plans, and you know what his plans were? He had to shovel snow. Okay? He had to shovel snow. So we had to catch up with Ryan earlier before he started shoveling snow in beautiful, lovely, cold, chilly Havre, Montana. Ichiro Hall of Fame. Why he voted for Felix Hernandez. Did he leave Ichiro off his ballot by accident? Why are the Mariners waiting on Alex Bregman? We cover it all with the human pony cake right now. Oh, wrong one. 3, 2, 1. Ryan Divish. Time for the Ryan Divish Show / podcast, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. It's located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They don't have snow in Tacoma right now, but they do in Havre, Montana. Chalet Bowl has been family-owned and operated for 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check out chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation and experience the best in local fun. How much snow today, Ryan Divish, in Havre, Montana?
We haven't gotten any today. It was all yesterday, but about 4 inches or so to go with the couple, 3 or 4 that we'd gotten a few days earlier. So, and I was gone. I was in Seattle all weekend, where it was dry and sunny, chilly, but dry and sunny and beautiful.
Great.
And I came back. So I got home last night, shoveled the main driveway, and then the nice, balmy 25-mile-per-hour winds blew a bunch of the snow back into the driveway. And I have to do the other driveway today. Plus, as my dad once told me at his house, that snowblower isn't going to run itself. So I got to go check at my dad's.
I love your dad. Can we get your dad on the show sometime? I think I would thoroughly enjoy having Mr. Divish on. It'd be great.
Yeah, he's well, he's mellowed considerably in his old age. Former drill sergeant in the Army, but yeah, he has his opinions. Loves Ichiro, loves Edgar.
Opinions.
Yeah.
But hey, born and bred in Montana was your dad?
Yeah, born in Havre, Montana.
Wow.
It's
Hasn't
like,
left.
Yeah, he's like the John Cougar Mellencamp song, gonna die in a small town.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got lots to cover. We got Ichiro Hall of Fame, Felix, the percentage, the retiring of 51 we'll get into, Alex Bregman, Luis Castillo, bullpen arms, all that kind of stuff. Can I ask you a personal question to start off?
Yeah.
Your mom's Japanese.
Yep.
When did she move to Montana? When did she come over?
She was born here in Montana. My grandma came over from Japan when she was just a baby. And then my grandfather, I think he was born in the Ording area. I'm not certain exact date, but they came over, or their grandparents came over. Both were arranged marriages, I believe.
Does the Ichiro Hall of Fame carry significance and weight for your mom?
No, not as much as you would think. My cousins, there are a lot of my cousins that live out there. It was a big deal. Really, my mom's maiden name is Sasaki. And so when Kaz was out here, and he followed in the Sasaki roots of liking to pound whiskey and sake. So, and we have no pull with Roki apparently, but no, it was big when Kaz Sasaki was out here. It was a really big deal. I remember when Nomo first came over. Then Ichiro was kind of the phenomenon. Yeah, and so it was a big deal to go see him. But my mom doesn't. I mean, my mom, God bless her. She was a cheerleader. She didn't really understand sports. Like when she talks about high school basketball, it's. Well, I just don't understand. It doesn't look like they're trying very hard. And I'm like, they're 15. They're just not very good.
Okay. What was it like covering him? I mean, you and I were working on the beat at the same time in those early years when he came over. Well, not in 01, but I started in 03. But for you, and those were hard times, right? After 03, those were some hard times, Daddy. But for your perspective, every single day and dealing with him and the circus that was Ichiro, what was it like?
Yeah, I started like 06, end of 06. But watching his routine, the OCD level of that he held everything to, I'd never seen anything like that. I thought, again, my whole mindset about what professional baseball was like or Major League Baseball was like changed so much when you start covering it. You're there on a daily basis, and you how they get ready for games and what the great players do and this and that. It changed so much. I mean, and I remember in 01, 02, whatever, he'd be in 01, I was bartending. In 02, I was bartending at Red's Bar in Missoula, and we'd have the Mariners game on, and it'd be on, and I'd just stop. I'm watching Ichiro's at bats because it was just something so different than what you were used to seeing. It was always kind of must watch whenever it came on. And then to get there and see him in person and 06, 07, 08, when they were not good, especially 08, he wasn't fun to deal with at times. 09 too, because they just weren't, they were bad. He was good. Players didn't understand him. There wasn't a great sense of team spirit in the clubhouse. And back then, there was so much media still covering him. You had to wait your turn. And I would get frustrated having to wait. I remember I wanted to write a story on stealing home. Remember when Jacoby Ellsbury stole home? He was playing with the Red Sox. He stole home against the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball to win a game. And Ichiro had always talked about it. And I wanted to do a story. My son, this is when I was writing the Sunday baseball column for the News Tribune. And I went up there twice on days where I didn't have to cover to talk to him, and he kind of blew me off, and I got super frustrated. I think I even told Ken Barron, the nicest guy ever, his old interpreter, I go, this is effing Bush League. And I think I was and I think Ichiro heard me say it, and I'll never forget it. It's one of the few times I had an English quote from him in the paper. He just yelled out, "Ryan," and I look back, I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I will not be stealing home anytime soon." And then and I just remember how angry I was about it. But as I got a little more mellow, a little less hungover in my days, it was, my respect level grew. And I think for me, the biggest thing is somebody who was not disciplined in anything in his life seeing somebody that was so disciplined and regimented to a routine stuck with me, you know, and it was something I respected. I mean, I haven't emulated it in any way in my personal life, but, you know, I mean, like I sit there and tell people about it. But, you know, you go see that and you see how meticulous he was about it. I mean, like I said, it would make me, if I saw that when I was younger, I think it would make me kind of change how I thought about doing things. I know even for like my girlfriend's son, being able to go to spring training and walk around with me and watching how these guys practice, like, you know, we were able to go to the indoor tunnels and kind of sat in there and watch them practice. And he even watched Ichiro and he said, like, look at him stretch and do all this stuff. He goes, he doesn't even play. And I go, yeah, you know, that's how he is. I think that would have changed my thinking a lot more, seeing that more. And so that was probably the biggest thing, is just being around him. And he gave me some unbelievable quotes over the years, you know, that 08 year when he talked about fans booing. He goes, we should be booed. He goes, if I was watching this team, I'd be in the stands drinking beer and booing this team too, you know, and then stuff like that. It was always interesting covering him. And it's funny now, he'll call me Ryan and I'm like kind of stunned by it, because he was a little you know, deferential. He's just kind of aloof when he played, but now it's a lot different. And so it's different. You know, he'll say some stuff to me in English even. You know, I don't have the relationship that Brad Adam does where he gets hugs from him every day, but like play golf with him and stuff like that. But you know, it's pretty crazy, you know, to see that. I mean, like I've told you, we talked about this before, but you know, when I in 09, when Griffey came back, like that was just my young life as a kid colliding with my professional life. And then like with Griffey, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm a smart ass, me and him got along really well. And to this day, like when he calls me and it comes up King Griffey Jr. on my phone, like my friends just are apoplectic. Like they cannot fathom the concept of all of this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's, you know, Ichiro is still a part of that. I mean, like I said, I just remember watching the 01 year back in, you know, Missoula, because there's a lot of Grizz fans or a lot of Mariners fans there, and it's on. We had it on all the time. I remember I was Sunday night baseball. I used to bartend Sunday nights. The game they lost to Cleveland when they were up, 10 runs or whatever. I was watching that with a bunch of drunken patrons in Reds Bar, because we drink on Sunday nights in Montana.
Well, it's the Lord's Day.
Sunday fun day.
It's the Lord's Day in Montana. He is, you know, still to this day at 51 and you know, and going into the Hall of Fame, we'll go into the Mariners Hall of Fame, have the jersey retired and all that. He's still a mystery. He still is, and that's what makes him unique. And I don't want confusing's not the right word, but I still think to this day, right? He is no doubt the second greatest player that's ever put on a Mariners uniform. I mean, I would think most people would agree with that. He's behind Griffey, but I don't know if he's the most beloved. And I'm not saying that maybe that shouldn't carry any weight with the fans. I mean, maybe fans do, you know, have him elevated over certain players, but. You know, there is that. I don't know, other superstars for that team, and superstars in the city have always had somewhat of a connection with the fans, and his connection there is one, but it's a distant one. Like it's he almost wants to keep it at arm's length, and
he did that on purpose. Like we don't know hardly anything about his personal life.
No, nothing.
You know, what we see are clip, like, you know, when he was carving up that Japanese high school girls baseball team, just punching out like 17, just pumping 89, you know, like, but you go ask him about it, he won't talk about it really, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, he doesn't talk about his family. I think I've seen his wife in a picture once. I don't know if I've ever seen her in person. You know, I know he has.
I couldn't tell you, Ryan. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen her. Does he have kids?
No, I don't think so. Not that I know of. He has dogs, but he doesn't have kids. You know, and it's like he kept his personal life very private, and you know, he'll only let you see what he wanted to let you see. And it's funny, like, could you imagine? Let's say if he came over now in this day and age of social media, like how that would work. Like how he would respond, because there is so much pressure. Like there are people out there and everybody's got a phone. Like one of the things when you were covering him, they didn't allow still cameras in the clubhouse. And I don't,
That's right.
But part of that is because there was some Japanese like tabloid offering money for like naked pictures of him or something. And so they had to really police all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, he had to be very guarded. He didn't live the normal life of a baseball player, partially because like his popularity and the crush of it all was so much. Like I didn't go in 2012 when they went to Japan, but I went when he retired, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before. Like I just couldn't. You went, even he'd been retired. He was still playing, but he wasn't a superstar. Every billboard and every commercial had something about him.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't just because he was coming there. It was because that's what it's like there.
And I think that's what makes what he did coming over here the single biggest, I think he's probably still despite Ohtani, has got to be the single biggest attraction of Japan, because you think of, he was the first one to break through in terms of a position player. Mm-hmm. And had he failed, I mean, I don't know what that means for the rest of Japanese baseball. I think players eventually come over and all that, but he had to be successful, because the knock would have been what the stereotype was back then. Yes, Japanese players can come over and pitch, but they can't play every day. They can't hit. They won't be able to face major league hitters. They can't play in the field. They're not strong enough. They're not big enough. And he broke through that, and he just crushed it. And I think countless players coming after him did he inspire. The Shohei Ohtanis, all those guys. Sasaki, the kid that's down at Stanford, the Santoro kid that's going to be the next big thing coming out. I mean, just all these guys guaranteed had posters of this guy up on their wall, and there's an immense amount of pressure on him to not only just deliver for himself, deliver for the Mariners, but deliver for an entire country and people.
Well, his influence is not even just Japanese players. Corbin Carroll has a Japanese mom, but like he worshipped Ichiro. When the Mariners had Corbin Carroll in a pre-draft workout, Ichiro was there to talk to him. You got to meet Ichiro, and then that would have been nice if he would have fallen to the Mariners that year. Well, I think that was the year the Mariners got Kirby. I could be wrong, but like Stephen Kwan of the Guardians talks about how much he grew, kid from Oregon watching Ichiro, like how much he influenced him. Like the guy changed, because also he's 150 pounds. He's 5'11". He allowed people to think at that size, hey, look, no, this guy does it. I can do this. Yeah. And it was very different. How he approached hitting, how he did everything was very different, and really, we haven't, other than Hideki Matsui, who followed shortly thereafter and brought a power quotient to it, aided greatly by playing in Yankee Stadium, I might add. We haven't seen the run of like outstanding Japanese hitters since then. I mean, obviously Ohtani's great, but like, Seiya Suzuki hasn't been what everybody thought. Right. Or, remember, who was the guy the Cubs got? Kosuke Fukudome. There was been a lot of hitters that came over.
Minoru Kawasaki?
Yeah, Minoru Kawasaki, yes. Yes, there was him. Still one of the funniest things. Funniest things is when he was talking about he had cramps, and there's a video of it out there, and he eat bananas because monkeys don't cramp. And I was like one of the funniest things ever.
He was a character. Yeah, it was amazing. It's amazing that, he falls one vote short. I didn't think he'd be unanimous. I always thought there'd be somebody out there that wasn't going to do it. I thought it'd be like 2 or 3, kind of like Griffey, but there was one person, and for whatever reason, had whatever their rationale is. We'll never know, because that person will never come.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was doing my ballot, and I didn't take a picture of it like I normally do to send it to Mr. Tibbs and everything. I didn't take a picture of it. And then like I'm sitting there, and I was so kind of stressed about voting for Felix and thinking about it. And
sure,
I'm going to write the column, so that what if I just forgot to check his name? Like what if I'm the guy, but it's really like I just forgot because I was doing this, and this, obviously like with Ichiro, it was like a no brainer. And I voted for CC and Billy Wagner. I voted for Billy Wagner, I think, almost every year he's been eligible. So, like, I'm getting those guys down. And then, like Carlos Beltran, Breer. Like, I knew Felix was – because, like, the Felix thing, you're going to be like – people are going to oh, you're a homer, you cover, this and that, whatever. So I'm sitting there thinking about all that, and then you're thinking, and then my raging ADD,
I guarantee I'm putting him down. I know I'm going to put him down.
Did I take my Adderall? Did I do this right? But I don't have a picture of it.
God, what if that's the case for the person who left him off, that he just forgot? He's like, I know Ichiro's going to be on there, but let me get these other guys, and then I'll send it, and then he forgets.
Yeah, and that's your biggest fear. And so I'm like, with my luck, it'll probably be me, and then my mom's home nation will be coming after me.
God, that would just be terrible if that were the case.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the case, or maybe somebody was playing the ballot game where you wanted to vote for 10 to make sure somebody stayed on, so you didn't want to vote. But I was looking at a lot of the tracking. A lot of people didn't vote for all 10. So it's different. And I think last year I only voted for 9. Usually I vote for 10. So that's my biggest fear right now. The ballots will be released, I believe.
But you took the picture, didn't you?
No, I forgot to take the picture this year, so I don't know.
You forgot to take the picture. I thought you said you did. So it could be you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hope it's you.
I know you do.
I just, for the love of God, I hope it's you, so we can just kill you.
Yeah, you're like your boy Softy. What, he just lives in the world of Schadenfreude because his teams aren't good, so he only cares about the other teams.
God, that would be so good. Ryan Divish, he covered him. He left him off. Oh, that would be. Actually, no, I don't wish that on you. I really, honestly, I don't want the person revealed, because that person is just gonna get, dragged.
To me, and I don't know that the unanimous thing holds that much weight, since Babe Ruth wasn't actually unanimous. So
I know, but it would have been cool for the first position player to ever do it was like a Mariner.
Yeah, well, it should have been how many years ago when Griffey went in? 3 people didn't vote for Griffey.
I know, it's just
3. He has 600 home runs.
Hey man, we don't need to debate. We don't need to go over his stats. All right, so get why Felix. I think people I'm going to assume many people have read your column, but just give us the cliff notes. Why did you end up voting for Felix?
There's a bit of sentimentality there. And I wanted to make sure I was going to vote for him if for no other reason that he didn't get the Johan Santana treatment where you just get pulled off they didn't get pulled off the ballot so quickly. Like that he would. I wanted to make sure he was on the ballot. And I think a lot of people think that. If you look at Chris Russo always says you have to be one of the most dominant players at your position for a period of 10 years. Mm-hmm. Well, I looked at it starting with his debut through was it 16? Which is 9.5 seasons. It was him, Justin Verlander, and CC Sabathia as the 3 best pitchers, and their numbers are pretty equal. And throughout those times, he played on some of the worst teams.
Right.
And so the win quotient or the win total. That's just a counting stat. We've kind of debunked wins as being a measurement, but some voters still use it. But if you look at innings pitched, and strikeouts, and all those other things, he's right there. It's those 3 guys, and it's nobody else. And I thought, for being that dominant that long and seeing it every day and seeing that maybe what he did isn't truly appreciated, I felt like, I could vote for him. And I feel like, down the road, because I'm also looking at other guys that are in there. Felix is cursed by longevity. He didn't have as long of a career, and largely some of that is his own fault for not conditioning maybe the way he was, or not adapting,
especially at the end. That's on him.
Yeah. But they also just muled him for the first, how the thinking with pitchers is different. Could they have kept him more healthy with better thinking? The way this coaching staff operates in this pitching, would they have been better? The thinking now, the amount of innings he threw, and sometimes meaningless games, just because he didn't want to come out, and they were gonna, that's just, it's crazy. He threw so much, and Jack Morris is in the Hall of Fame. And yes, he had some great postseason starts, but his career is all about longevity and staying in. The 300 wins.
And I think the postseason plays a part.
Killed him. Yeah, killed him. Like, it's Don Sutton who stayed and pitched for 30-some seasons. I mean, if Felix really, I don't know if he would have been able to do it, but let's say he pitches 3 more seasons and ekes out a 9 wins here, or, gets on a decent team. Like, he was going to make that Braves rotation that 1 year. So he gets 10 wins, like, what does that make him any better just because you added to the overall totals?
Right.
Or do you look at who he was for how long? Honestly, like, the same thing is like, during that span, if the Mariners wanted to get to the playoffs, or if you had to bet your paycheck on a game for, you had to go out and pick a starting pitcher to start a game because your paycheck is on the line for any team. I mean, like, I'm picking Felix probably over CC because CC gave up a lot of hits. And, like, when Felix was right, he shut you down.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't get anything. Verlander the same. CC was there was a stretch where he was really dynamic when he was with the Brewers and such, but like his was about longevity as well. That he was this big horse that could pitch forever, and it's not a reasonable argument, but Felix really was, his Hall of Fame career was sidetracked a little bit. Yes, by his own like lack of understanding of what he needed to do to be good later in his career, but also because he was loyal to an organization that did nothing to really help him, to surround him like they promised. I mean, when they got Cano and Cruz, and that was kind of when Felix started to trend down a little bit. But I mean, he probably should have another Cy Young. I mean, you look at the numbers, he probably should have a Cy Young over Kluber that season. And, I just think I have no problem voting for him, because there are guys on the margin. It's like Todd Helton, like he put up a lot of numbers, but you can pick it apart as much as you want, and so I just think like for the better part of 9 seasons, he was one of the 2 or 3 most dominant pitchers in baseball.
Yeah. All right, back to Ichiro for just a quick second. August 9th, they're going to retire his number 51. Now, I've thought about this for a long, long time, probably like a lot of Mariner fans. What would they do with 51? Because it's owned by 2 great players that put on a Mariner uniform. And I always thought that they would retire it together. Like, how would they do it? Now, it doesn't seem like they're going to retire it together. Maybe they could do it later for Randy Johnson. But when you retire 51, don't both of them own the number? Like, what would you do with that?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, that's one thing too. Like, Randy is so sensitive about stuff. Like,
sure.
I'm sure it bothers him, but at the same time, he isn't really as much of a part of this organization as he is with the Diamondbacks.
Right.
When he went in with the Diamondbacks hat. And
I do want to add, though, because there's a lot of it. Well, he chose the Diamondbacks. He didn't necessarily choose the Diamondbacks hat. There was a discussion because people, this, but for people who don't, it's a conversation that happens with the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They don't just let you say, I want to go in with this team. They're part of the conversation. They steer you towards the team that you should go in as. And I read a bunch about it. It was a debate for Randy, what to do. The Hall of Fame pushed him, and they agreed that, listen, you won 4 of your 5 Cy Youngs there. You won a World Series there. You should go in as a Diamondback. And he said, okay. But it's not like he said, I'm going to go in as a Diamondback and that's it. Or because if that's the case, Wade Boggs would have went in as a Tampa Bay Ray because the Rays were going to pay him like $10 million to go in as a Tampa Bay Ray. And the Hall of Fame stepped in and said, no, you're going in as a Red Sox.
Yeah.
Because that's where you did your most damage. But to the point, and again, he has a say in it. And I understand what he did for the Diamondbacks. I'm not going to argue that. But, I mean, it's not like he was chopped liver with the Mariners. He's, arguably the best pitcher in franchise history.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, like, for a stretch. I mean, I would still probably take Felix because he was there longer.
Yeah.
But, I just don't know that – I'm sure it means something to Randy because, like I said, he can be sensitive about stuff. But at the same time, I also don't think that he was, like, super regrettable about the Diamondbacks thing. I think he understood it. So, they can do it at a later date. Something they probably want to talk to Randy about. Maybe they do something we don't know about. But, Randy's been back a couple times and he's been really cordial. I mean, that dude can talk when he wants to. But
he doesn't have the connection like the other guys do.
No, it just isn't that way. and I mean, I think that's part of it. Is like he just doesn't have that connection to the organization anymore. And the connection that he did have started to wane because he just wasn't around as years go by and stuff.
Right.
Griffey's still around, Edgar's still around, even Dan Wilson's still around, obviously, Alvin Davis. Like that connection is still there because there's still viable parts of the organization or, do things for the organization. Randy isn't like that. He does his own thing. And I think that's part of it as well.
All right, a couple of quick things. Alex Bregman, it sounds like they're waiting on wherever Bregman goes to make a decision at third base. What do we know? What's going on? What's the latest with that?
Yeah, I think that's with Bregman and Pete Alonso, they're kind of waiting because I think other teams or possible trades could open up in that way. But, who knows? I mean, if I'm Bregman, I want to get this done here in the next week or so. Same with Alonso, because you don't want to arrive at spring training the day before and figure it out. I mean, I don't think with those two guys, they're sitting there working out anyways. They're doing their own thing, but I would think that they would want to get this kind of taken care of in the next week or two. And then maybe the Mariners will see some movement. We might not. Who knows? I mean, it's the Poto, and obviously it was because of the lockout the 1 year. But I mean, Winker and Suarez arrived the day that the first workout or whatever.
That's right.
It wasn't so I mean those trades can happen as well. There's some fringe guys that the Mariners could sign that I don't think are or that reliant on where Bregman or Alonso go, but they like Justin Turner. I think Justin Turner's waiting to see where Pete Alonso goes because he wants to go somewhere where he can win or it's on the West Coast, whatever. There's a lot of different things that are out there. So we're kind of stuck waiting. But I mean, unless it's a trade, and they move Castillo or something, I'm just not expecting a ton of an overwhelming, a move that's going to wow anybody.
Sure. Castillo report to the team February 12th.
Yeah. I mean, as far as he knows, he's still with the Mariners. I mean, and I'm sure they probably, when they talk to him about who he would actually waive his no trade clause for and stuff, they probably just say, look, we're not necessarily looking to deal you. We're just going to listen to offers because there's a lot out there and, this is where we're at. I think they all kind of know it's a business and loyalty is pretty fickle. So.
Hey, last thing for you. One thing we talked about the offense, but real quickly, I mean, they have a problem in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. I mean, because they don't. Because I think on another podcast radio station, Gregory Santos.
Cheater.
I know Gregory Santos is an idea. He's not a pitcher. He's an idea of what he could be. Because he hadn't thrown. And then Brash is coming back off of modified Tommy John surgery. There's going to be limitations on what he can and can't do. Well, then those were, your two expected leverage arms from last year that didn't really pitch. They're not going to be full go by the beginning of the season or even maybe 2 or 3 months into the season. You don't know kind of what they're going to be. I mean, Santos is supposed to be healthy, but we don't have any evidence that he could stay healthy. So who are your leverage guys again? That's what hurt them last year. Yeah. Gabe Spire wasn't Gabe Spire. He struggled. They've had to force Colin Snyder into a role, and he did okay. But, I mean, Austin Voth was one of their leverage guys last year. And who do they have now? Troy Taylor's a nice pitcher, and he had a nice little rookie season. He could take a step up. They've got some guys they claimed off waivers that throw hard and have some potential. But there isn't, any one guy that is okay, yeah, we went out and got this guy, and he's going to step in and pitch the seventh, and help Brash until Brash is healthy or whatever. They don't have that. Mm-hmm. They're having to piece it together because when you don't have that much money, can't spend it on relievers. You got to figure them out. You got to hope for the Justin Topa or the 1 year of Drew Steckenrider or something like that. That's how they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to piece it together, trust their pitching guys, and maybe there are some guys in the minor leagues that can help them. Brandon Garcia, one of their top prospects. There's talk that he may be a lefty out of the bullpen instead. They may use him that way. I just think that their holes on this team are pretty significant. I don't think the bullpen is great. It could be, but you never know. And bullpens are fickle, and the lineup has holes. I mean, and that's just kind of where they're at. Right now, it's it's Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss probably starting in the infield along with the combo of Solano and Rayleigh. And
love it. God, I love
JP.
it. I'm all in. I am so all in. I'm so all in for this year. You are the best. The Ryan Divish Show, the Ryan Divish Podcast Experience, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Go book your next reservation, chaletbowl.com. And of course, you can find all this episode up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe. When you're Apple, Spotify, your podcast platforms, please rate 5 stars and write a glowing review. All right, you're the best. Have fun shoveling snow. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
And again, big thanks to Ryan Divish for joining us earlier this morning before he went outside in lovely Havre, Montana to sit there and shovel snow. It was a long daily puck drop today, 10 minutes over. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Jim Moore from Ely, Nevada on his way back to Bend, Oregon. Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, talking all things Seahawks. And then, of course, Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. Reminder, if you came into the show watching the live version, we go live every day at 10 a.m. You go to 11:30. But I know many of you wait to listen to the show later, watch the show later. But if you are in the live community, everything is always up on YouTube. Search Puck Sports. When you're there, subscribe, please. It helps Puck Sports and my children. Also, when you listen on the podcast platforms, whether it's Apple or Spotify or I don't know, whatever platform that you choose, please rate the show. Give an honest rating. 5. It's got to be 5. And please write a review. It helps the bots and the algorithms. It pushes us up the podcast charts. We got to be number 1. It all helps the cause, though. And then, of course, we got everything up at Puck Sports, pucksports.com. When you're there at pucksports.com at the top, you can sign up to be a Pucks Posse member, in which you are supporting Puck Sports. This venture also gives you VIP access to bonus content that we've been doing. Dynamic Duos episode with Graz and Gas is up there. Interview with Monty Kohler, O'Day football coach, is up there. We did our Cougar Legend Roundtable. Quarterbacks up there. That's all available. More content is coming in the new year, including a weekly NFL draft breakdown with Dane Brugler from The Athletic that will only be available to Pucks Posse members. So please sign up today. $5 a month. That's all it costs you. Not even a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is more than $5 now. You can sign up for a year, and you will get a discount there as well. All right, we wrap up. If you're new to it, we wrap up every show with Hey, What the Puck, which, of course, is brought to you by our good friends over there at Restoration One of North Seattle. It is your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, or mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. The best in the business, 206-817-8917. Visit them online, restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Retire the number 51 for both players because they both deserve it. And I know the argument on one side is, well, Randy Johnson didn't finish his career here and was more notable as a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Certainly more notable as an Arizona Diamondback, accomplished more. Won 4 of his 5 Cy Young Awards there. Won a World Series championship there. You know, Ichiro didn't finish his career in Seattle. Well, technically he did, but he moved on. But when you think of 51, 51, what comes to mind? Right away. And for me, it's the first one, just because he was before Ichiro, is Randy Johnson. And I do believe, and it's no disrespect to either of them. The Yankees did it with, we looked at Yogi Berra and Dickey. You can retire the same number for 2 people. Maybe they will down the road. Maybe they wanted to wait until Ichiro wanted to retire, hit the 51 first for him, and then do it later for Randy. I hope at some point that they could do it. I don't know. Maybe there's animosity between Randy Johnson and the organization. I don't know. I hope they would resolve that. He has been back. He hasn't been as back as much as some of the former players have been. And sure, there probably was a messy ending to when he left Seattle. It was. I mean, he wanted a new deal. They didn't want to give it to him. Chuck Armstrong, not Chuck Arnold. Thanks, Ian. Chuck Armstrong, made it a point. Listen, we don't feel it's a deal we want to do. And they traded him. Now, ultimately, it did end up being a good trade for him. But, he was clearly still healthy. They are both unique individuals who I believe, having been around to watch them both, should share the number. And I hope at some point that they do. It doesn't take away from Ichiro, and it shouldn't take away from Randy Johnson. But they both deserve to be represented as a retired number in Seattle, number 51. All right, that's Hey What the Puck. It is brought to you again by Restoration One of North Seattle. With any damages to your commercial or residential property, give them a call, 206-817-8917. Visit them online, restoration1.com, your North Seattle franchise. Full Daily Puck Drop will be up on YouTube if you came in late. Full episode up there. Again, hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave comments there. Try to answer as many as I can. We'll separate the Ryan Divish podcast and the Rob Staton podcast as well. Those both will be up there on YouTube. As for the podcast channels, as we've mentioned this before, getting some questions about it, for Apple or Spotify or whatever podcast platform you're on, just uploading the full show. We're time stamping all of the visits from our guests. Just makes it easier for this guy, okay? If you have any questions, concerns, always email me, puck@pucksports.com. Thank you for the continued support. Wednesday's show is in the books. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll talk to Michael Shandugar from The Athletic. And also, we'll get an update maybe on the offensive coordinator search. Also, Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network. A week ago, we talked about Clint Kubiak being in the driver's seat. Has that changed? We'll find out tomorrow there with Mike Garafolo. Appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!